Well, we'll go ahead and get started with our prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance, and then maybe some folks will flow in after we're finished. So if you'll stand and join us.
Dear Lord, we ask that you guide us tonight, Lord, as we do your business, and continue to bless our county, Lord. Be with our first responders, Lord, in the county, Lord, and the employees that we represent here tonight, Lord, that we'll make the right decisions and do the right thing. Continue to bless us, Lord. We praise you for this, Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone. This is our first of two tax rate hearings for the tax rate for 2019. And it is 6 p.m. on the evening of the 12th of September 2019. I'm going to begin with a brief statement that I read the other day in Commissioner's Court on Monday, but I don't know that this information has disseminated or not, but hopefully it will give you some additional information. At that time, I'll ask if any of the commissioners want to make any statements. We'll open up the floor. If you like, you can come up to the stand and say anything that you like, ask us questions. All right? All right, we'll begin. On August 26th, the court proposed a tax rate for 2019 of 50.85 cents. This was a no-change rate over the prior year, and the proposal passed 3-2. At this time, I thought that that rate was below both the effective rate and the rollback rate. However, subsequent to that proposal on the 26th, 4 days later, in fact, we realized that the effective rate was lower than that 50.85. This scenario came about due to a couple of things. Number one, the overall county property valuations increased significantly this year. We suffered a decade of declining values, primarily as a result of the power plant reductions, so an increase was out of the norm from what we were used to. This increase, however, was not at first apparent to us. When we compared the 2019 current year valuation with the 2018 prior year valuation at this same time a year ago, there actually appeared to be a slight overall decrease in the property values. However, this wasn't the case due to item number two. Item number two is the fact that the Luminant valuation lawsuit was settled in late fall of last year, after the county property valuations and the 2018 county tax rate and budget had already been filed. The settlement resulted in a $187 million reduction to the 2018 tax base, and thereby set a new benchmark when comparing to the 2019 valuation. This was essentially a mid-year property value adjustment, something that's very unique. So you need to understand this. We thought we had a property valuation of this much last year in 2018. When we got our values this year, they were almost the same, but a little bit less. Well, unfortunately, we were comparing to this figure back here, when actually a couple of months after the valuation was established, the appraisal district, due to the settlement with Luminant, lowered it by $187 million. And so what we thought was a slight decrease, when that beginning number came down, we actually had a significant increase. We were looking at the wrong number there initially. When we compared the 2019 property values to last year's values from our last year's budget notes, we were using an incorrect baseline and missed the significant increase in property values. Once we realized that error and compared the 2019 current values to the Luminant settlement adjusted 2018 values from last year, this produced an effective rate that was lower than last year's tax rate. Again, an effective tax rate is the tax rate set that brings in the same amount of money as the prior year. And when valuations go up, tax rate goes down to produce the same amount of money. When valuations go down, tax rates got to go up to bring in the same amount of money. So we had a situation where our valuations had actually gone up, which is a good thing. Because we'd never wanted to exceed the effective rate or the rollback rate, we now need to adjust our proposed rate, which again was 50.85. We need to adjust it downward to 47.42. Because we're making a change from the rate that we proposed back on the 26th, we're having these tax rate hearings. This is requiring these two different hearings, one tonight, the other one will be Monday morning, the 12th, or excuse me, the 16th at 9 a.m. So the good news in all of this is that we will be able to reduce the current rate by over 3 cents. I apologize for this error and the confusion that it's caused. Perhaps this rate reduction will enable us to have more consensus on the court when we vote for that rate at the last meeting of the month. Now, the bad news is that we'll not collect the additional maintenance and operation funds that we had thought we were going to, that we had planned to use for our annex building project. If we continue forward with that project, more than likely in the future we'll have to look at other sources of funds such as borrowing funds. But that's another subject that is still yet to be made final. So again, in summary, instead of the 50.85, which was the same rate as last year that you saw in the paper, the rate is going to be 47.42, unless the commissioners decide they want to do something different besides that, but I believe they're all committed to maintaining the rate at the effective rate, 47.42. Commissioners, anybody want to say anything before I open it up to the floor?
I don't have anything.
Okay. We have a live mic up here. We have a mic here that I'll pass to you if you would rather sit in your chairs, and we're here to listen to you. Yes, sir. Can we give you that? Because I'd love to get you on record, and you can stand right there.
47.42 is a better rate. I appreciate that. But I'm a past resident of Camp County. I still have land over there. And I noticed that the rate at Camp County was $31.89. If they can operate at $31.89, it would appear to me that we could operate at probably a little lower rate than even 47.42, because we have a greater value in our homes here and our land properties and so on. And so my thinking is that austerity would be a, and I appreciate Mr. Riddle, his group, but I appreciate the fact that he voted against this, and wondering if we've done a thorough research to make sure that we can handle our business at a lesser rate, or if it has to be at this rate.
Thank you. How long have you been a resident here?
5 years.
5 years, okay. Well, one of the differences between us and Pittsburgh, we're going to be financing for another 16 years or so this 14-mile loop that the taxpayers voted on back in 2006. That's one of the things that differentiates us. We have a significant amount of debt that we are servicing in conjunction with the state of Texas or TxDOT reimbursing us. But there was a $168 million building project, and basically the county is responsible for paying the interest on that while we are being reimbursed the principal by the state of Texas. So, well, the project has been completed. As far as the debt goes, it was set up on 20-year notes, and it'll finish up here in another 15 and a half, 16 years. Sir? No, I'm talking about the actual debt service itself, when we actually get the money paid off where there's no longer that debt service related to the loop. But the project is finished. Thank you for your comments. I'm just curious, how many of you had heard the news that we were going to 4742? Had anybody heard that? Okay. Sir? Well, the rate was not ever going to go up. We kept the 50.85 the same as last year. But again, when everybody's values have gone up, that obviously would have meant you were paying more taxes. So, again, we apologize for the error. If we'd have had it correct the first time, we would have never proposed the 50.85. We'd be where we are tonight. I'm not going to rush you. I'm going to let you build up your courage if you've got a question. I'm hoping that maybe what we've done, what we've told you here tonight, maybe alleviated some of your frustration, but if not, we're here to listen to you. Sure. Would you give him that mic?
Uh-huh. And that we were maybe going to get some more Dallas stations and get rid of some of the Shreveport stations. Do you have any input on that now?
Yes, okay. So I got all the initial filings to DirecTV and Dish Network sent in to them, and Dish Network replied back to me. DirecTV didn't reply back, and that's fine too. That was just being cordial to them by the guidelines of the FCC. So after that got finished, I sent the packet into the FCC about 4 weeks ago. And that contained all kind of charts and graphs and what we can get on a regular antenna versus what we get cable, what we get DirecTV Now, the sports broadcasting we get, the news we get, and most of it was 95% was not Texas related. So then I stated this argument to them and sent all this information in. They have 90 days to reply back to us. And I really feel confident after what happened in Harrison County, County, and Gregg County, that they should, with this, the way this act is proposed, they should be in favor of us changing. When I get word from that, I'll get that announced on Facebook and in court. That'd be real exciting news. So I'm watching the mail every day. So when we hear that, I'll get with all the station managers. Now, the stations that we qualify for in our area are the Tyler local stations. And then I think the NBC station is a Tyler Nacogdoches station, but it'll be more Texas related. And even a Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. So it looks good. And then after those stations hear back, they'll be eager to renegotiate their contracts and services. So then I'll know more how long that may take after I talk to some of the managers.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
But to clarify, we wish there were some more Dallas stations, but what we're seeking here would essentially lump us into an East Texas,
yes,
not a Western Louisiana. It really is not going to have any
Actually,
impact on Dallas.
Actually, had to take the closest stations And the Nacogdoches Tyler was kind of iffy with the NBC out of Dallas, so I applied for both of those stations. Maybe they might just give us that one network out of Dallas. I'm not sure how they're going to vote on that when they tell us. So that may be possibly a Dallas station.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, on Monday morning, we will have this same tax rate hearing. I'll repeat the same words I've repeated to you tonight. We will also have a budget hearing at that time. They seem to kind of get commingled when people have comments they want to make, so you're not necessarily limited to only talking about tax rate tonight or budget, same on Monday. And then we will vote on both the budget and the tax rate on the last meeting of the month, fourth Monday of this month. I don't want to hold you any longer than I have to, but I sure don't want anybody to feel like they got cut short. Once, Sammy? Not while you and I are alive, probably. And I'm not kidding. Let me tell you what they have told us, and they've told us on multiple occasions. They have, since that original configuration, when it was completed the first time, they've made a few changes, and they've got a few more to make, but they are not going to be extensive changes. And there will not be main lanes that fly straight through. You're going to have to come to the 2 stop signs just like now, and those main lanes are going to continue to sit there unfinished. They told me 2 years ago that they thought they could get another 20 years out of the current configuration. They're certainly not ready to do any kind of flyovers where you just swoop right on to Interstate 30. I would say the best thing that we could expect would be traffic coming out of Dallas could get an exit prior to the 271 exit right now where Two Senoritas and Jalapeno Tree are. It could get shoved back towards Dallas and allow them to shoot straight on to the southbound. That would be at best, and that's going to be a few years from now. But as far as improving and connecting those main lanes, don't look for it anytime soon because TxDOT is happy with the way that it is right now. Yeah, we're all puzzled by that. Yes, Denise.
Can we discuss some of the things on the budget or not?
Well, since it's a tax rate hearing, I mean, if you want to go ahead, I'd ask you to limit it. How about that? But yes, I'll allow it.
Okay, like some of the things that are in the budget that's coming up, we can discuss those. You're saying that's okay?
Well, that's not what this hearing is for. I'm telling you, if you'll keep it brief, then yes.
There's several, so I probably don't need to bring them all up.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. Would you lift up your mic? We got folks that may want to watch at home.
Okay. I have a question.
Name, please.
I'm Lacey Derrick. I teach at the college and I teach at Mount Vernon High School. And I am just curious, I've been a lifelong resident here. I'm just curious why you voted the way that you did to increase the tax rate to Mr. Parker and to Mr. Fitch. I'm just curious why you think we need this.
Well, we weren't voting to increase the tax rate. We were voting to keep the tax rate the same as it was last year. So when I came into office, me and Carl have had several discussions. Don't raise the tax rate. What's going to happen? We're going to raise the tax rate? What? No, the tax rate should be fine. I think it would keep it the same. So I was real pleased that we were going to keep the tax rate the same as it was. Then I found out since then, having some excess monies coming in, keeping the tax rate the same, since the appreciations have gone up for some folks, we might need to hold off on that annex project, so go other routes on that. So I understand that too. So yes, it would have made my taxes even go up about $25 just on my house. So this new tax rate is a good deal. It should make my taxes go down some this year from what I paid last year on my evaluation. So I'm happy with that. That's a good thing. But keeping it the same, I was good with that. And I was real excited about the annex project, but now I'm, having my thoughts about it. Maybe we can get by a little bit longer with what we got. So,
Can we talk about the annex project?
Sure.
yeah.
Can I get you in front of a mic? There you go.
Yes, Denise Riker. The annex project, we've done all the work that what is it now, probably close to $500,000 over there. And now we're not in compliance and going to have to redo. So what are we proposing to do? I'd heard they were going to buy another old building or redo that building. Are there not grants available that maybe we could do, like maybe New Boston or Rockwall, and go out here to our industrial park and build new and quit redoing all these old buildings? Because we're throwing money away every time we do that. Is that not a possibility?
Good comments, and let me clarify some things. The first thing that you said, we're not in compliance. There's nothing over there that's not in compliance except for our fire alarm. Well, we're still in compliance. I mean, granted, we're taking advantage of grandfathering clauses. We do feel like it needs to be brought up to standards. This court does not feel like spending any additional money on that current annex is a prudent thing to do. So we've essentially ruled that out. What we are talking about now and did talk about in court would be a complete demolition of that annex and starting over with a new building. We have engaged the services of a real estate appraiser to appraise the two buildings at the back corner of the annex that are currently owned by two separate owners, that if we can get those purchased would give us control of the entire block. That would give us a lot of different options over there. We've got to take this one step at a time. We can't make a decision of the end until we get some of the beginning pieces of the puzzle settled. But as I see it right now, this court desires to have a new justice center, I will call it. They seem to want to have it at that location, and they seem to be willing to demolish that existing building over there. Have we ruled out relocating to another part of town? I think that could still be considered. But the initial discussions were, if we've got this land that's close by, right here in the middle of downtown, that's close to other county projects, why not go ahead and use it, rather than buying more land and moving it out away from the downtown area?
Is that going to be a parking issue, or are those other issues that you have some issues over there?
Fix the current or a future parking problem? Well, I'll just tell you my personal opinion. I would like to see that complete block demolished, a new two-story building in the center, and ample parking on all four sides. That's just me personally. We haven't talked about specifics like that and won't get into it until we engage the services of an expert architect and planner that could say, okay, here's what we can do on this block. Well, we don't own that land, for one thing, and I personally don't see the logic in putting a justice center out there. Now, am I completely opposed to moving it somewhere besides over there? I'm open to anything, but I don't see the logic in putting it in an industrial park.
I just see if we put a whole lot of money in a lot of old buildings, Riddle Street, the election office, this building across the way, and that's supposed to fix our problem.
And they're serving us well. The Riddle Street building is bringing in nearly $3,500 a month. We've just renewed the lease there. It won't be long before that building will have been paid for. These guys on the... We're responsible for those maintenance issues, and I very seldom get a call. I don't think we spent much money at all on that building in the last 2 years. They know who to call. They don't call me. And they know they can, because we respond quickly. We can always get rid of that building, and I reiterated that to the court the other day. Keep in mind, guys, we don't need that building probably, and if you ever wanted to sell it, we have that building to sell.
That's what I was thinking, is maybe consolidate some of these properties, take that real estate money.
When you say some of these properties, give me another example besides the Riddle Street building that's not being used for county purposes.
I'm saying consolidate them so that we don't have running all over town, which this is not.
Where are we running all over town? Where are we running all over town? I'm trying to keep it all tight, close by here.
If you have election office and auto registration over there, courts over there, courts over there, I'm just saying if you have one facility.
One giant building where everything was housed.
Like New Boston has done theirs.
I mean, that's not a crazy idea. And we will certainly solicit your input when it comes time to sit down with the planners and architects. I mean, we're going to throw everything that we possibly can from people that work for the county to people like you that have ideas like that, and let them listen to everything and propose something to us.
That's not what we want to know, is why throw money into this building cost road that we've already run so much.
We agree. We're not interested in spending another dime on that building, except for getting the fire alarm functional, where if a fire started in that second floor, we would know about it so that people could get out of the building. Right now, it's not properly working, so that's the one thing that we're going to spend money on. It's a good question. Al?
Alfred Flanagan. I've heard a couple of comments, and I think the first thing that needs to happen is determine the need for more space before we determine whether we need to hire an architect or an engineer to design the space. My question would be, are we having more court cases today than we did 10 years ago? And if we're not, what's the need?
Well, that's what we're hearing from the judges over there, yes. We
I know,
do.
but the numbers should reflect that based on number of jury trials.
The numbers do reflect that. We have an increase in criminal cases, AG court, Child Protective Services court. We can't even have a jury trial in this courtroom. So there is need. Is it needed today? Is it needed next year? Is it needed 5 years? I don't know. That's all up for discussion. But if we don't start planning this right now, it'll never happen. The planning's got to occur some point. And we may decide after we look at the configurations and the cost of something new, these guys may not be willing to spend that kind of money. They may want to just pass that on to the next generation.
I understand that. It just seems like through time we hear, and this is outside, I'm not looking at any books to make that determination, but it seems like most of the criminal cases, they plead out, they make an agreement instead of having the jury trials. And that would be my question, and I just asked the court, before we spend money doing either one, to look at the number of cases that we have that go to jury and the backlog. And I'm sure there's a lot of days, a lot of weeks maybe, that the building's not even used. I don't know if it's a scheduling, but there again, I'm not looking at the numbers. I just asked the court to look at the history now versus 5 or 10 years ago and on the number basis before we spend the money.
Good question. We're not telling those judges what they need. They're telling us what we need, and I can only base it on what they've told us on 2 or 3 occasions over the past few years. And we kept promising them that second courtroom starting, 4 years ago, and it's just not come to pass. And thankfully, we got the advice of another engineer who told us you really don't want to spend money on that, because as soon as you go into any kind of a major remodel, even to add a courtroom, then you're looking at having to upgrade to a sprinkled system. You're looking at having to upgrade your ADA, your security. The list goes on, just because you've decided to flip the switch to do a remodel over there. Then you kick in a lot of now we need to be brought up to current. So what was a $1 million project becomes a $1.5 million, $2 million project. So that's why we don't want to spend any more money there. But I feel obligated to at least plan something that we can look forward to, whether it's needed immediately, 2 years, or 10 years from now. It's all right. It's all right.
On just the annex, but also on the jail, I understand that they were saying that they needed more space for the jail. We don't need to buy another old building to add to that either. So what are the plans as far as the jail?
Nobody has told me about any additional needs in the jail. So if you're hearing that, I don't know who you're hearing from. Okay, well.
That's why I was thinking that maybe we would consider consolidating and selling off real estate of the buildings that we have and make that debt less.
I'm telling you, I'll consider anything. But as far as Sheriff Ingram telling us to be planning for a jail, I honestly haven't heard that. Will it come?
Space for investigations, and I think he presented that to you several times.
Right, and that would be something that he will undoubtedly share with the any planner that came to town. And it may be that you could move some other department over there. Maybe you could move not elections, but maybe you could move tax into the new building and free up some space. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in this process yet.
I would like to, I was told by some members of the court, our lawyers and that handle the cases over there, and it was pointed out to me that we could, even if we had another courtroom, that the district judges are spread out, and that's the reason it's vacant, because I asked that question, why is it vacant so much, just like Alfred is. And the reason they say, because the judge has to work in this county and that county, other counties is a reason it's vacant. So Alfred's got a good point. Or do we really need it? I know I heard both Ralston and another one tell us that they did need it, but I think he makes a point, a good point.
He does make a good point, and if we have any doubts about that, we need to have answers, and maybe it's time that the judges, our new judge and Judge Ralston, come and tell us some more and refresh our memory about that. They haven't done that now in a couple of years.
Yeah, Hudson Old, I'm with the East Texas Journal. On the tax rate at 47 cents, Carl, can you tell us what the breakdown is between maintenance and operation, interest and sinking?
Yes, it's 7.62 in the INS and 39.48.
7.62 on the INS, and that last year was,
12.33.
so it's dropped in nickel. What we pay off?
Paid off the 2004 bond, right away.
Carl, give Carl a mic, because I think these are good questions.
There was the paid off 2004 bond. It was refinanced in 2011. The right away on Park Club, the right away on Chapter.
So that rate drops a nickel, and our M&O rate is now going to be,
It goes up about a penny. It goes up about a penny.
it goes up a penny.
Yeah, it goes from 38.52 to 39.80. Yeah, it goes from 12.33 down to 7.62.
That's going to generate more or less money than last year.
Well, you're actually going to generate a little more money because when they figure the effective rates, you don't count any new property added. So it actually generates $165,000 more money than last year. And along those same lines, talk about the budget, we put $100,000 more money in each precinct. We put $100,000 more
going once.
Can I add something? On that building that we looked at, Tim, we did vote as a court to get an appraiser to look at that, and didn't come in very good, so we knocked that plumb off it was no longer on the table, so I wanted to get that straight. Sir? Well, we did not consider that building because it's going to cost too much money to update it.
He's referring to the building over there next door to the jail
Yes.
that was available for sale, that we had somebody take a look at. It just had more problems than we wanted to contend with. Going twice. Sherry? Sherry, would you come up to the mic? Would you come up to the mic for me, or hand her a mic? Well, people, now, and it's not that we can't hear, but we're recording this, and there's a lot of people that watch this on the computer, and you really can't hear unless you're in front of the mic.
I'm Sherry Spruill, and Denise, and I appreciate your input and everybody's input. I've learned to really appreciate all the citizens' input from all facets and all things. And I haven't been up to date on the discussions too much about possibly ever incorporating all the county offices. And I do know that maintenance cost is higher on existing older buildings to maintain them and to update them. My concern is, what would it do to downtown Mount Pleasant if the county moves its its offices out of Mount Pleasant? I would like to have this discussion further and consider that. And I'm not just because I'm here representing the city. I'm here as a citizen of Titus County and Mount Pleasant. But a lot of the jobs that happen down here support the other small businesses. I think Mount Pleasant downtown would completely die. So, and I agree, and maybe somewhere else, but whew, I just hope we remember that when we're looking at these future plans. I know you need to plan ahead. I think that's wonderful, and I do think it's good to have different ideas and different bids, but consider the overall impact on every part of it, every facet. And I certainly want to keep our taxes as low as possible. Thank you.
All right. It is 7:42, and if there is no further comments, and there does not appear to be, what'd you say?
6:40.
6:42. Thank you. For the record, it's 6:42.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out.
Yeah, thank y'all for coming.
Because
All good comments, all good questions. We appreciate it. If there is nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
make that motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Applewhite.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night and God bless.